The Monkey Mind Podcast, your number one platform for athletes and mental health. Hosted by Danny Perez and Anthony Florentino.
This is episode 65 featuring Tyler Bird. Tyler's a professional hockey player for the Orlando Solar Bears in the East Coast Hockey League and played his college hockey at Brown University. But before we get into the episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Daily Dose CBD Inc. Daily Dose CBD Inc. creates full-spectrum CBD products ranging from tinctures, balms, and dog treats. Research has shown that CBD has successful results in aiding in the following areas: anti-inflammation, anxiety, PTSD, help with breaking addiction, neuroprotection, epilepsy, arthritis, chronic pain, and sleeping disorders. Daily Dose makes an extremely safe and effective product that we know you will love, enjoy, and benefit from. Daily Dose has given Monkey Mind listeners 15% off all their orders. Head over to dailydosecbdinc.com and use promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off your purchases. That's promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off all your orders at dailydosecbdinc.com. We got Tyler Bird on today. Welcome. I played with him in Greenville. That's where I met him. When I was there, what was that, 2019 spring?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, right for my college season, and one of the many great guys over in that organization who took me in. We were roommates, and I got to know him pretty well. So yeah, Tyler, welcome on. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. If you could just introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, where you play, where you're from, and your hockey journey so far.
Yeah, so I'm from Andover, Mass. Just kind of grew up playing in the Massachusetts area and stuff like that. Played at prep school, Kimmel Union, my senior year, and then went on to play at Brown after getting drafted to Columbus, and then for 4 years at Brown, met a lot of good guys there, and friends to this day, and had a fun time and good hockey career there and all that. Kind of bounced around the coast. My first year I was on Wheeling, then got dished to Reading, then got traded to Greenville for like the last month, kind of bouncing around, and obviously that's where we met. And then my next year I played in Orlando, got a call up to Syracuse right before played a couple games there before COVID ended it all. And then this year, the entire year was in Orlando. So it was a pretty good year. Kind of just been, obviously, as you know, grinding through the coast journey and stuff like that, but it's been a blast. And thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And kind of before we segue into the mental health aspect sort of things, just talk about your pro experience and kind of how that's been, and moving around, and this whole COVID year, just kind of overall how it's been going for you.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It was kind of a whirlwind my rookie year, but it, looking back on it, I'm kind of thankful for it because I got to experience the league a lot, and then, meet a lot of guys that, you normally wouldn't. So you kind of have those friends for life, and always staying in touch with them. You just meet a lot of good people. I think pro hockey has a lot of good people in it, and it's just nice to meet different people and share different experiences with. This year was pretty crazy. It was long. I think there's only like 13 teams in the league you could play with, fans and stuff like that. So it made it super competitive. And I thought the league was like at its best it's ever been in my 3 years there. We ended up playing like a full 72 game season, which was pretty crazy compared to like, other pro leagues and colleges and stuff like that. So it was definitely a grind. We had a really good team in Orlando and a lot of good players, a lot of AHL experience, even some NHL guys played a little bit with us. So it was good. It was we ended up missing the playoffs like the last month, but we had a really good team, and it was a fun year. Definitely a grind, but it was really good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm sure it was a unorthodox year, but it was good that you guys got the full 72 in, and
yeah, definitely
try to make it feel as normal as possible. But obviously segueing into the mental health piece, you recently opened up about your struggles with mental health, and obviously, as you know, it's not an easy thing to, first of all, just go through and deal with, but two, be able to get to the point where you're feeling comfortable enough to publicly speak about it. And I'm sure it was a liberating feeling, just kind of getting that off your chest out there. And if you could just kind of talk about kind of stuff you've gone through, and just your struggles with mental health in general.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, like the mental health stuff really came up, I don't know, maybe when I was like a junior and senior in college. Like looking back now, I didn't really kind of understand it. I thought it was just normal things I was going through, where I was being super anxious at times, or kind of feeling those, depressive states that, people go through. And I just thought it was kind of, I thought it was pretty standard, only to kind of learn that, those were signs in the beginning. Looking back, obviously hindsight's 2020. I wish I had done some stuff earlier, but I would say it like really took over actually when we had really met each other, which is pretty funny now looking back that you started this up. And like, if I had known, like we could have opened up about it, probably would have been a lot better. But definitely, like I think it was maybe like after I got traded for like the second time, and I was like, what is going on? I just had so many good friends in Reading, and it was just, I think part of it was just like moving all around the country and stuff like that was really hard. Hard on anyone, and then just dealing with anxiety and stuff like that every day, just made it that much worse. And it was kind of then when I was like, all right, this isn't normal. Like I was getting to the point, I'm like a pretty passionate person and pretty hardworking guy, I think, as you can like attribute to on the ice. And there were just days where I was like, wow, I don't even like literally want to get out of bed. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone. I just want to chill and just do my thing and just lay in bed on my phone all day. And I've never ever been like that. So it was kind of the point where I was talking to my parents when I got home, and I was like, listen, like I don't know what this is, like, but I need some help. And so that's when I kind of started talking to a therapist, and I've been seeing them ever since, kind of on and off. And this year definitely had to reconnect a little more than I had, hoped. I'd kind of done it after my rookie year. So that was like 2019, the summer. I'd done it like weekly or whatever, and was feeling pretty good. And then I think with COVID striking, I think, for everyone, obviously a really, really tough time, and kind of just being like locked in your house and stuff like that just doesn't, it's not good for those anxieties and those depressive feelings. So this year is definitely tough, and I kind of, in my mind did a poor job of taking care of myself and stuff like that, especially in the summer going into the season with, so much unknowingness and whether it's going to be a season or not. That really definitely affected me, as it did a lot of guys, I'm sure. And I would say, for me, like the low point was, I think it was like around, I think it was it was New Year's. So I'd been having these really depressive thoughts and for a while, and I think just really my girlfriend, who's lived with me down in Orlando most of the year, knew about it. Like even my closest buddies and teammates didn't know too much. And I just had an incident where on New Year's Eve where I'd plans to like hurt myself, for lack of better terms, and it was like to a point where I kind of almost like blacked out and didn't know what was happening. And the next day it was like I couldn't believe I had finally gotten to that point, but it did. It got to, the worst point you can possibly get to when somebody's dealing with depression and stuff. So, my girlfriend and my roommates, my, best friends of the team, and even the coach, like we sat down and like decided that going into an inpatient hospital was going to be the best decision for me at that point. So literally to start 2021, like I was in an inpatient hospital with other like mental health patients and stuff like that, a lot of which have been Baker acted, which means like if you're threatened to hurt yourself, essentially you're forced to be in there. I was in there for like 4 days, and then it was definitely an interesting experience. And I got out after that, kind of continue on the season and continue to have struggles, and have continued, to work with my therapist and different strategies to, kind of help myself. And it's definitely an everyday fight. Like some days you're going to be really good, and some days like things just for some whatever reason aren't going to be right. But like through medication therapy, I'm just continuing to work on getting better and stuff like that. So
Well, I mean, obviously, as you know, or at least I hope you know, it's great that you're still here to, you know, just being around and having this conversation, and that it didn't get to the, that point where there's no turning back. So obviously I hope you know that you're loved, and it's happy to have you, happy to have you here and around. So but before we kind of, unpack the rest of it, I kind of want to go back to like the start of it. You said it was your junior and senior year of college, correct? That you kind of noticed like the first early signs of it, right?
yeah, definitely.
What were those early signs that you started to notice, and what were the triggers that were causing, the flare-ups and anxiety and depression?
Yeah, I think for me, it was before really reaching a depressive state. It was more like anxieties, but it'd be like, small things that were you get so anxious about something that it actually like makes you not want to take action to whatever it is you have to do. You know what I mean? Like whether it be like a school assignment or something like that. Something as simple as like doing a paper, and I get extremely anxious about like, finishing it on time, or like, having time to do the paper. And then it gets to the point where it's like you can't even work. It's like you're almost immobile
Mm-hmm.
to take action on whatever you need to do. So like that was just, I kind of think I attribute it to me, like for me, school was like never like the easiest thing. I was just kind of always focused on hockey. So I think I kind of just attributed it to me being like, oh, I'm just being lazy, or I'm, procrastinating. But when it gets to the point where it's like you can't even do anything because you're so anxious about something like that, that shouldn't make you that anxious. I think that's like kind of an early sign that, there's something more that you need to do. Um, I think with my relationships too, I think it's common for people to like always overthink things, but just relationships in general, always over analyzing how like a conversation with somebody goes, or how like whether it's like a significant other, just always kind of overthinking and being like, oh, did I say something wrong there? Do you know? So stuff like that is just little anxieties that kind of pile up to the point where it's like now I'm like thinking about every single movement I make and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I think that's like some early signs. And then when you don't take care of it, it just kind of starts to affect every part of your life, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like you have a magnifying glass on every single move you make, every thought you have, um, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a powerful tool that people with anxiety have, because it's like makes you more aware, more cognizant of situations, and makes you more empathetic. But I think when it gets to a point where it's the overanalyzation, where it becomes paralyzing, is when it becomes a problem. And I can't even imagine what you went through. Just it's a privilege to go to Brown and play hockey there, but it's got to be so stressful to go to an Ivy League school and get that education and deal with the course load. And on top of that, being a Division I athlete is never easy as well. So I can't even imagine, the stressors that must have, posed on you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good point too. Like, my mom kind of has like this, not as bad, I would say, but same anxieties kind of. And we always talk about like being anxious is good because like it drives you to do things,
Mm-hmm.
or it makes you kind of like a perfectionist in a good way. But sometimes you can overpower you a little bit, and that's when it's like you have to take a step back and kind of heal those anxieties. And then in terms of like Brown, like I can't say enough good things about that place. I loved everything about it, and I loved my teammates and everything. Like they're my best friends for life. But there was definitely moments where I'm like, you feel like, there's so many smart people there, and it's like, man, I really just don't like belong in these classes, or I don't belong in this like student body. So it kind of made it tough to like relate to people in your class. I think like outside of my hockey team or athletes, I guess, essentially, which definitely made school a little difficult sometimes, because then that's what you're always thinking, like, man, these kids think I'm idiots, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So that was definitely difficult for me at times. And I think that definitely was a big stressor, through my 4 years there.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine, man. I'm trust me, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to school. I'm not a school guy
Yeah, for
by any
sure.
means. There are times where I felt like I was struggling at Maine, and I'm just like, I can't even imagine Brown. So
Yeah, right,
I
right.
get I get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
And as far as just segue into your pro career, kind of talk about that experience and how your anxiety kind of manifested there too. I mean, I only played a year, but I got a taste of the bouncing around and dealing with the business and professional side of things. And you've been involved with it longer, and it's obviously caused you to have flare ups and anxiety. So kind of talk about your experience there, and yeah, just what that was like, and how you coped and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think like, well, you got it, because you played in, for instance, the league, the ECHL. Like, I think as a rookie, like a lot of people, guys don't understand that your contract really is just doesn't mean much. It's just a weekly contract, so
Hmm.
you can basically get released or traded at any time. Which was kind of like shocking to me at first when when I first went to camp in Wheeling, and guys who had signed in the summer were getting let go a week later. It's gives you that definitely anxiety feeling where it's like, wow, at any moment like you could be out of a job, and next thing you know you're back home with your parents and stuff like that, looking
Hmm.
for a place to play. So I think that in itself, I think you can talk to any rookie on a ECHL deal. There's been times where like I'm not sure if I'm going to be here next week. So I think that for sure, you know, gives guys a lot of anxiety, kind of, to squeeze the stick a little more out on the ice and stuff, and just be nervous. So, like, even just going to the rink every day and stuff like that, you're not really sure what your future holds. Um, so I guess like the best advice, like I would give to like a rookie or anyone really to, on in that situation is just kind of like enjoy every day. And for me, the best thing I told myself is like a lot of things are just out of your control. You know what I mean? If guys get sent down or guys get called up, a lot of it's out of your control. So you can only do what you can do. So that's kind of the mindset I tried to take once I learned more about the league and stuff like that. And then as I became a little more established and stuff like that, there's obviously the pressures of, you want to move up. You don't want to be stuck down in the ECHL forever. You want to move up, and everyone dreams obviously playing the NHL, but even until they get to the AHL to make like, a respectable living and to continue to play hockey, because you can't do, the job forever, and you're always going to want to move up. And sometimes there's guys that might be on better deals than you are. That is frustrating. So that's just kind of been like my experience, through my first 3 years and stuff like that. It's been all positive for the most part, but there's definitely some tough moments that you got to learn along the way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from my experience, I can relate to that. Just like the underpreparedness that I had going into my first season, not from a hockey standpoint, but just from like the business side, like
Right.
being protected and qualified after having such a strong start to my pro career in those 4 games I was with you in
Yeah.
Greenville.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize that your contract is written on toilet paper until,
Yeah. Literally.
until you show up to camp, and there's like, it's like the first day doesn't even count. It's like captain's practice, like the first day in Greenville. It was like, and there's like 5, 6 guys sent down on like AHL and NHL deals already before camp even starts.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, where do I fit in here? And then you
Yeah.
realize you actually never fit in there. So
Yeah.
so
And you're
it's
like,
like,
you're not even like, you're not you're not even worried about making the lineup. Like you're just like
exactly,
hoping you get put on the IR like a fake injury or something like that.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. I was like,
you know?
can you just at least throw me in the IR for like the first couple of games kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the part that I didn't really understand, because like I didn't have an agent that prepared me at all. Like he was so like just distant. So that kind of, I totally understand what you're saying in that aspect of like, gripping the stick and scratching and clawing and like trying to figure out your way. And that part's tough. And I think, I don't think that part of the game is ever going to change. And that's fine. Like it
Yeah.
is what it is. But if they can prepare guys for that a little bit better, so that way you're not showing up to camp after being told all season that you're going to be in that organization, and then 3 days in, you're back in New Jersey trying to figure out what your plan
Yeah.
is. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. And it's the worst too, because you gotta like, you talk to like your coach and like, oh yeah, like you're gonna be like a power play guy and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that. Next thing you know, like you're not even you don't even have a stall in the locker room. So it's like
exactly.
stuff like that. It's just, it's definitely important for guys to understand. It's in that situation, the ECHL, where how like literally nothing your contract means. So I wish I understood that going in, definitely for sure.
Yeah, no, it's and that's why I'm happy that you're able to kind of speak on this, and I hope people listen, and guys
Yeah.
coming out of college to understand. I mean, I was talking to a guy coming out of college yesterday in a summer league game, and I was just like, yeah, like he's like told me flat out, he's like, I know nothing about pro hockey, and I'm like, well, you better start to learn, because
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You better
the
start asking questions.
yeah, that way you're not like shocked come day one about like stuff happening to you or other guys, and like what's going on here, because
Right. Right.
I think a lot of guys, mostly out of college, I think, are underprepared. I think guys coming from major junior kind of a better idea.
For sure. Yeah.
But the guys coming out of college definitely don't. And that, I know we could go on for this for days, but at the end of the day, it does have an impact on people's mental health, because you have a guy like both of us who thinks that you're going to be in a situation all summer, and then 3 days into that situation, you're back home with your parents. And that's like pretty scary feeling.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And like even this year, like obviously with less teams, some of the top guys from other teams were playing in the league that they would normally there's 26, 27 teams, now there's 13. So I think guys this year, I at least that I thought were in Orlando, were getting released and stuff like that right out of camp, who would have easily made a coast team, in years prior. So it's like it sucks, you know what I mean? But it
Mhm.
kind of is what it is. And like you said, I don't think it's going to change either.
Mhm.
But I think the more prepared you can be, the better you can like challenge yourself and just prepare yourself mentally for it all.
Exactly. And like you said, for like those, controlling what you can control, just having that mindset going in that, hey, like I'm going to put my best foot forward, and kind of whatever happens, happens, and controlling what you can control. And that's the best you can do. Otherwise, going in with heavy expectations of certain things, is dangerous. And, when that gets derailed, you have to quickly change your mindset. So I think if you just go in with an open mind, and I think you're a little more prepared for those situations that can arise.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So, I mean, obviously you opened up to us here about, your event on New Year's and, kind of, the care that you were in after that. If you can just kind of talk, more about that experience. And, I mean, I know what it's like to have pretty dark thoughts, and I can relate to the wanting to act on them, but luckily never taking it that far. But I know how dark it gets, man. Like I'm sorry that, got to that point for you, but yeah, if you can just kind of talk more about that situation and kind of what happened after. And obviously, seems that you're doing better now, how you're doing now.
Yeah, like the night, like honestly, like obviously it's New Year's, so while alcohol was involved, so it's like in terms of like that, like I don't remember too much. Partially too, because I had, I kind of suffer from like when I get into these states, like it's like an emotional blackout almost, and a lot of times I don't even remember what I'll say until I'm like, oh, somebody tells me the next day or whatever.
Yep.
So that was definitely, it's scary because that was like the first time that's ever happened to me,
Hmm.
and I think like after that, you kind of realize like how like much people care about you. Obviously, people love you and care about you. Your guys on the team are your best friends and all that. But they're like, when you see how concerned they are, it almost like makes you want to like push me even harder. And like, I honestly can't think like I don't know if I'd be here today like without my girlfriend. Like she's but the most supportive person like in the world. And I think a lot of people like don't realize how supportive the people are around you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, a lot of guys would really do anything for you, and I think that's important to know. In terms of the few days after the incident, going into inpatient hospitalization, it's definitely for me it was a bit scary at first. You're in a place with at that point like 20 other people who are probably going through the same thing as you and kind of come from all walks of life really. um and there's no cell phones, there's no like there's like a TV like in the main room, like in the living room, and you kind of like you sleep in like a bed where they check on you every 15 minutes like throughout the night, with like your door open and everything. There's always people watching you and stuff like that to make sure like you're being taken care of. There's a lot of group therapy done like throughout the day, just different types of therapy. And then you meet with a doctor. I think we know the doctor, like the head therapist, twice a day as well to kind of go over your progress. And for a lot of people, it's just like some people stay like up to a month, and then for me, I was up in there for like 4 days, and it's kind of like, as I found out, kind of like a reset button. And for me, it was like a wake up call, but for other people, it might be more helpful with the therapeutic side of it, because a lot of people don't have access to that outside of that. So yeah, you're eating with the same people every day, um, doing the therapies, and it's just like it's definitely a different environment for sure. Like I said, I was a little scared at first and was excited when I got to go home, and like it felt like a long 4 days, but I think it was necessary for me for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm happy that you're able to give that insight, because a lot of people don't know what that is like. But
Hmm.
I think if you're at a point where you really are feeling backed into a corner, it's not a bad option.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you can attest to that too. I mean, when I was in Macon, there were times where I like was such a dark place. I was like, I have to just check myself in or something. But I
Right,
was
right.
so scared because I never knew anybody or never knew what that experience was like. I thought I was gonna put in a straitjacket and like be locked away forever and like be
Yeah,
labeled. So
yeah,
I'm
for
happy that
sure.
you're kind of clear in the air on that too, for not just for me, but for everybody else listening.
I,
Because
yeah, I was pretty scared too. Like especially when I like first went in the facility, because not really, but I did like basically like the guys on the team, my girlfriend and my coach were like, hey, like we think it's your best option to go inpatient. I don't think anyone really knew like what it was, but I was like, all right, I guess I'll if these were the guys who love and care about me the most, like think I should do them. I think I should do it, and um, like it was scary for sure, but like there's nothing to be scared of, I guess, if I were to tell somebody, and you're with a lot of other people, might be a lot different than you and stuff, but struggling with the same things. So
exactly. No, and it's normal to struggle with these things. We try and reiterate that here all the time. It's just some people struggle with them more than others, and some people need to, pay more attention to it than others, but it doesn't make you any different or worse than the next person. And just happy to have you here and be able to, be on a positive side of it. And, if you can kind of talk about the coping mechanisms that you developed and, kind of the tools that you learned to get your mind back on track and get in a positive state, that you utilize on a day-to-day basis, or when you're kind of getting in a negative thought loop or whatever the case is.
Yeah, one thing for me is just like kind of staying mindful of where you are, like wherever you are in that moment. Not letting myself get too ahead of things, whether it be like worried about, I don't know, anything down the road, like hockey season or monetary things or anything like that. So kind of staying mindful and enjoying the present and finding like little enjoyments throughout the day that I normally wouldn't, whether it's like just walking, um, you know, walking down like where I live to get a coffee, or just like putting on an episode on something on Netflix that where you, instead of just being like mindless and staring at a TV screen, kind of like actually enjoying it,
Mhm.
stuff like that, and taking little moments to enjoy. For me, like journaling has been a thing that I've done on and off, and like whenever I kind of find myself getting into like a bad state of mind, like I try to get back into like more regimented like script of journaling and stuff like that. And it could literally be anything, just like how I'm feeling that day, like what's bothering me. Kind of just like, it sounds weird and sounds like I thought it was weird too and wouldn't work, but just kind of writing your thoughts down can be really helpful. Like I suggest actually, my girlfriend recommended it to you. Like it's called the 5 minute journal.
Okay.
You can buy, and it's just literally like it takes 5 minutes a day. You start your morning and your night with it. Just like three things you're grateful for, like what will make today great, and then ends with like some like writing down what happened today that was good and like what can make tomorrow better. Stuff like that's like really helpful. Just kind of being like, um, you know, thankful for stuff that happens to you each day, even if it's just like a normal boring day and stuff like that. Just
Mhm.
kind of trying to find the little enjoyments. And I guess like obviously therapy. I do therapy once a week, which has been really helpful. Finding a good therapist that you trust is like extremely important if you have that ability to. I know it's really hard sometimes, but it seems like there's a lot more options out there now, online, and it's becoming a lot more affordable and stuff. And then kind of for me, finding not for everybody, but like finding the right medication that works for you. And it's kind of like it takes a little bit to find that medication, but like once you do, it's definitely super helpful. And I think that's a side that like people kind of get scared of, because it's like, oh, medication to fix your problems, and like people are scared of side effects. But like I saw like a good thing, like the side effects of being depressed and anxious are much worse than a side effect of like any pill. So I think
Mhm.
um stuff like that is definitely important, and if you're in that state with the right recommendation, like medication can be helpful too.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you mentioned the journaling and the gratitude journaling as well, because post on our Instagram actually, science shows that 21 days straight of writing down three things that you're grateful for rewires your brain for happiness. So there is scientific evidence behind that stuff. And I'm happy that you found that helpful and useful. And I think a big part of journaling is just being able to take your thoughts out of your head and put them on paper and make them sort of like a tangible object
Right.
works wonders, and
Yeah.
just being able to kind of slow down. I know, like, when you're anxious and in a depressive state, your mind kind of just rambling, going 1,000 miles a minute. So being able to kind of slow down, and like you said, appreciate, go for walks, and appreciate the little things that you're doing, I think is huge. So I'm happy that you mentioned those things. I'm happy that you found a lot of things that work for you, the medication and therapy. And I think therapy's huge, and
Hmm.
not a lot of people give it a shot, but I'm happy that you're able to attest to the wonders that it can bring your life.
Right. Yeah, definitely, for sure. um yeah, I mean, like I think for me too, like I guess my biggest thing is like if I'm not feeling good or not something's going on, like I always try to just like don't sit and do nothing about it. Don't just sit and stew, like in your bed or on a couch and just do nothing. Like just maybe it's going to like you said, go for a walk or journal it, or like get a workout in or something like that. But I think the worst thing you can do is just kind of sit and try to let it go away on its own. Like a lot of these things you have to take action on.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, you're saying a lot of important things and things that are super beneficial. So I'm happy that you're saying all this is great. Um, Yeah, man. I mean, we don't want to take up too much of your time, but if kind of just to cap things off here, if you had, one thing or a couple things to say to somebody going through a rough time, or um, someone going through the same things that you're going through or have gone through or potentially will go through, what's a piece of advice that you'd want them to know, or your old self to know?
I think I think for me it'd be like to not be ashamed of like what you're going through, because I wrote this like in my Instagram post like a while ago, like I think one day hopefully like therapy, like mental health therapy, will just become like a very normal thing where it's part of like a normal doctor's office. Like it's like if you like injure your leg or something like that, like you go get it fixed. Like if your brain isn't like working the way it should be, like you need to go like get it fixed. And these things like aren't going to go away on its own. And I've even forgotten that myself like plenty of times. You know what I mean? Like I've started therapy, I've gone off of it. Um, I've believed in journaling, and then I've been like, no, I don't need that. You know what I mean? Or I've been lazy and like, this will go away on itself. It's like, it's definitely not going to fix itself. Like you have to take action on it yourself, or it's going to be there and it's just going to get a lot worse. So I think taking action on it, and then, confiding in people that are close to you. Like I'm lucky where I'm able to tell my parents, and they're extremely supportive and like extremely helpful. And the same thing with my friends and my girlfriend and all that. Like, so I think finding people that will listen and help you take action, because it's not just with you. It's like kind of like sometimes it's like a team thing. You need the support of others.
Mhm.
So finding somebody that will be trustworthy and like who loves you and like cares about you deeply, that will help you. So I think those are like my two biggest things I'd have to say.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, man. I think those things are important. Letting that stuff fester in your head is never any good. And I'm happy that you were able to come on here and tell your story. And like I said, I think you've given a lot of great advice and just perspective on this whole subject. And I think this is going to definitely help a lot of people listening. And I'm just, like I said, super grateful that you're here to tell the story. So, Birdman, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. And if you have any final comments, please feel free to get those out there. But otherwise, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and like this is great. And I think these talks are important, and like hopefully, it seems like mental health, like talking about it, is going on an upward direction. So hopefully, it just keeps going with like little conversations like this.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said earlier, you never know who's going through it. I mean, me and Birdman were roommates at the
Yeah,
same time, going through the same thing and never said anything. And now here
yeah,
we are
exactly.
years later talking about it. So
Yeah,
just open up, man. You'll get a good response more than half the time, like 90% of the
yeah,
time you will. So,
for sure.
but no, thanks again, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man.